Welcome to our 87th podcast. Today we're talking about gratitude and how it leads to both improved financial performance and better organizational cultures. What's one thing you can do now to build gratitude within your organization? Keep listening to find out. Welcome to Harmonious Workplaces, a podcast about corporate culture, organizational change management, and workplace behavior. Harmonious Workplaces was started by independent consultants Rich Cruz, Ben Kleinman, and Cheryl Volpe to explore, challenge, and build on various organizational culture and change management concepts. It's a blend of theory and practice based on their personal and professional experiences working with companies of all sizes across various industries. If you own a business, lead a team, want new ideas about the corporate environment, or just want to listen to a group of consultants talking about how to make work more enjoyable, we invite you to sit back, relax, and dive in with us to Harmonious Workplaces. Hello, Harmonious Workplaces listeners. Welcome back to our podcast. I'm Rich Cruz, an organizational development consultant, and I'm joined by my co-host and co-author and co-everything else, Ben Kleinman. Hey, Ben, how are you?
Hey, everyone. Hey, Rich. So glad to be here.
Awesome. I'm glad to have you, man.
Yeah.
I'm thankful to have you here.
Thankful.
Right? This
Yes.
is what we're going to talk about today. It's that season.
All about gratitude.
Gratitude. Yeah. Yeah.
And I like how it's not just for the feels. It can actually be for the benefit of your colleagues and coworkers, but also financial performance is tied into it, and a better workplace, a more harmonious workplace, if you will.
Oh, I love that, Ben. You just that product placement right there.
There you go.
Nice work, man.
There you go. And if you'd like to learn more, please contact us.
That's right. Please do. HarmoniousWorkplaces.com.
Yes.
We're ready for you. So, yeah, gratitude. I mean, there are quite a number of studies around gratitude on a couple of different levels. And what kind of stuff have you seen out there around this?
Originally, some of the stuff, it's a really good question. Originally, some of the stuff that I'd been seeing was more tied to personal types of gratitude in the sense that mindfulness, meditation practices are very much tied to gratitude, and that is very much tied towards having a more empathetic, or is it empathic? I don't know. More empathic.
I've heard it both ways. Yeah.
Have you really? Okay.
Yeah.
So as you become more mindful and as you adopt a gratitude practice in your mindfulness, you become more empathic, and that leads towards being a more resilient type of person. So there's been some pretty good research showing that, and I've seen that play out in my personal life as well. And so I think where I was kind of going is then starting to see, is there a connection between that in people's personal trajectories, and does that also hold true in the workplace environment? And it seems like there's some pretty good evidence showing that it does. So there's that same kind of research backing that as well, where we can get into it more, and I'd love to, in terms of where the research really holds and where it gets a little bit thinner, and where there's some opportunities for some folks to sponsor us to do some really good research and study that a little bit deeper. But kind of curious what you've seen or what your kind of research has shown around that.
So when you're talking about empathy from that, who's the person receiving the gratitude, and like is that the manager expressing gratitude to the employees, or is that the employee being kind of coached to feel gratitude in the workplace? Does that make sense?
To be more gratitudinous.
There's a new word for you. Gratitudinous.
Harmonious Workplaces, where we're all about the acronyms and the new words.
And that's a brand new one, Ben.
Once again, jumping the shark on a Tuesday. I think, It's a really good question, and I don't know that I have thought about distinguishing, and it's probably a good thing to look into. I was just looking into gratitude in the workplace in general,
In general,
and
yeah.
when I think of a personal gratitude practice, it's usually you or a person as an individual wishing well towards other people or wishing
Sure.
well to yourself,
Mhm.
building up that self-compassion.
Sure.
In a workplace, I could see there's that very different dynamic though, where you might have a manager or a leader so involved in trying to build empathy through gratitude within his or her team or function. And then you may also have a kind of um, individualized approach to gratitude where people within a team, individual contributors, are just naturally becoming more gratitudinous over time because of
Mhm.
the social substrate at that organization. The organizational culture leads people to just lean in with that sort of gratitude approach, the thank you very much for doing this, or I really
Right.
appreciate you doing that, or
Sure.
you know, X, Y, and Z happened and so person did a really nice job. Let's then send them a little thank you or just a little gift card or just a gold star on the wall or something like that. And
Yeah,
and
yeah.
that can have a really, really good snowball effect, but it's very reinforcing of that type of culture.
Sure.
A
That makes sense.
long-winded answer, Rich, to
No,
your
no, that was
to
great,
your
man.
very simple question.
And it I mean, and that makes a lot of sense from a motivation standpoint because, I mean, if we look at even, some of the older, models like, Maslow's hierarchy where, that esteem section, which is like just before you hit, self-actualization, right? That part of, uh, our motivations, our needs, right, uh, hits right there, right? So we want to receive some kind of acknowledgement that what we did help somebody else, and that, I guess, even more than that, that we've we've done something that's congruent to our own self, our own vision of ourselves, right? If that makes sense,
Mhm.
right?
And is there also an element of doing something that's congruent with contributing to the group as a whole?
Oh yeah, I would
Yeah.
say for sure, yeah, because there's that third layer, right, just before the steam, right, of that belonging, that sense of belonging, love or whatever, however you want to put it, but
Mhm, mhm.
that part of the needs, that social aspect, is certainly right there, right, because we want to feel
Sure,
like we're contributing to the group and not feeling like we're isolated, or what we're doing is just being done, right? That we talked about purpose, Viktor Frankl's,
yeah, very much.
finding meaning and purpose,
Right,
right? That
right, and Kwang Lei was also talking about that.
right, right, yeah, yeah, yep. So go take a look at Quang Lei's episode, which was just 2 weeks ago, I think it was. So yep, go check that one out. That's a good one.
Mhm, mhm, yeah. So, this has been a really good kinda intro and sort of setting the stage, and maybe
Sure.
we kind of, take a break, but then come back and talk about how these are s these are they're not quite sequential building blocks, but they are kind of Lego blocks that fit together
Hmm.
and can lead towards really good things in the sense that if you have gratitude or if you promote gratitude, that builds a sense of empathy, that builds resilience, and
Hmm.
then that can lead to a better workplace environment,
Sure.
a better org culture, and it can lead towards improved financial performance, whether that's increase revenue or reduce costs, however you
Right
wanna look
on.
at that,
Sure.
that kind of thing. So maybe we do that, take a break, and then come back and start pulling apart the threads.
I like it. Okay. We'll be right back. In a world where leadership needs clarity and action, and HR gets left out of the loop, one hermit crab steps in to save the day, only to be shut down by management. From the creators of Hermie the HR Hermit Crab and the Harmonious Workplaces podcast comes a new shell-shocking adventure, Out of the Loop Into the Fire, or HR Hung Out to Dry. This book blends workplace satire with evidence-based lessons, reminding leaders that culture, trust, and people strategy don't exist as extras. They form the foundation of lasting success. Whether you work as an HR professional, a leader, or just someone who has survived a few too many staff meetings, Hermie stories will make you laugh, think, and maybe even change the way you see your workplace. Purchase Hermie the HR Hermit Crab, Out of the Loop, Into the Fire, or HR Hung Out to Dry, now available on Amazon and Ingram Spark. Shop now at harmoniousworkplaces.com/Hermie HR Crab. That's harmoniousworkplaces.com/Hermie HR Crab.
Big change of Fred.
And we're back. So, Ben, before we went to the break, you were kind of talking about, I guess, more or less the utility of gratitude in the workplace, right?
Yeah, and not to be overly crass about it, but in a corporate environment, at the end of the day, there should be room for these kinds of organizational culture types of things and all that, but a lot of people just cut right to the chase. Are you making money? Are you saving money as you try to make money? And so I think that there's a pretty strong case to be made for including some of these quote unquote squishier things or feel good things, because they do lead towards outcomes that are favorable for the business from a profitability perspective. And so if you want to be very crass, building up a better organizational culture through gratitude, empathy, resilience does lead towards improved financial performance. And we've talked a ton about how having a better workplace environment leads towards better staff morale, reduced turnover, all of those types of things have a very strong correlation with reduced costs. I mean, the cost of turnover has been well proven before, so we don't need to get into that today if we don't want to.
But, well, no, I mean that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
There's some actually fairly recent research on group interventions and on the organizational development scale,
cool.
Of gratitude, where there are either group dialogues or like one of the things that I do personally is I've got this like Moleskine, I don't know how to pronounce it, but anyway, whatever notebook, right? And
one of the cool notebooks with the little band around the side of it.
That's right. And it's the nice part about it is that there's some value to it, right? I mean, they're not cheap, and but it's it means a lot to me to have this, right? And every day I do, or okay, I shouldn't say every day. Sorry, journal, but I try to do 10 things I'm grateful for, and then like 10 things I want to manifest in my life, right? But and I'm like, I learned that from a coach a while ago, but in some of these studies from 2024 and 2020, it looks like people doing the journaling or just talking about what they're grateful for has led to psychological well-being, work engagement, job satisfaction, with effects that could persist for at least 6 months. That's pretty significant. I mean, to be able to not have turnover, for that amount of time, that I can't say it's just because of it, but strongly correlated to those types of interventions. I think there's a lot to be said for trying to help people do that. Yeah.
Absolutely. And you think about the multiplier effect. I mean, that's just one person, right? You think about how many people in that group are doing similar kinds of things or behaving in similar kinds of ways or having similar intentions. I think so much of the time we talk about mindset and behaviors, but that intention part of it, maybe you lump that in with mindset, but I think that counts for a lot too.
Sure.
Well, did you intend to hurt someone? No, that makes a big difference as opposed to just punching them in the head, right? That's very different.
That would not go in in my gratitude journal, Ben. Or should I put that? I am grateful that I was not punched in the
I'm
head
grateful that
today.
I did not reach through the screen and punch Ben in the head.
Right. But what I liked about the idea of like a group intervention type of thing here is that there is that social aspect that we talked about,
Yeah.
with that sense of belonging, and that everybody is doing something. So there's this inclusivity aspect of it.
Right. Right. And
So
you've
it's
talked a lot
personal.
about. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying it's personal, but it's also shared. Right? That was always.
Right. 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 And you've talked a lot, and Cheryl has talked a lot about that sort of in-group mentality, helping to foster a lot of those really good, positive social behaviors in a
Sure.
workplace environment.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Yeah. Cool. Very cool. So I think where I was looking and kind of things that I think we've just been talking about is this idea that gratitude does lead towards empathy, and research has shown that, and there's a pretty plausible and strong correlation there
Mm-hmm.
between those two, and we'll have acres of studies in our show notes for this one that people can go to and tease apart there.
For
Um,
sure.
the
Sure.
next step in sort of the process or the chain there, empathy leading to resilience. And
Mm.
I think that's where I was seeing that there was a little bit more of a stronger there is a lot more stronger evidence and correlation at the individual level, like we were talking about just a little bit ago, but
Mm-hmm.
that there's more indirect evidence supporting empathy leading to organizational level resilience. And I think that's just where there's not been as much research conducted, or at least if there was, I haven't found it quite yet, that
Sure.
speaks to organizational level resilience. So you have a lot of research showing that individually, as a person, your empathy can help you be more resilient.
Mm-hmm.
We've talked about that before. We're just talking about that now.
Yep.
But at the at the core sort of organizational level, there's seems to be a little bit less research there, and so I'm making a little bit of a leap that I don't think is totally unfounded to say if you have a lot of individuals who are very resilient, that's going to lead to a more resilient organization overall. I think that's a pretty reasonable leap, but I'm willing to have
That
people tell
makes
me that that's smoke and mirrors.
No, I think that makes a lot of sense, Ben. I mean, it stands, and I don't have research at my fingertips right now on this, but it makes sense that if you have people with similar skills, right, knowledge, skills, abilities,
And
that
willingness,
are,
yeah.
and willingness, yeah, for
Motivation, like we were
sure,
talking about before,
yep,
yeah.
aligned to the same purpose and all of
Yeah,
that, right?
right.
That would lead to an organization itself working, and that organization could be on the whole, right? But oftentimes it's within work groups,
Yeah.
as
A
individual
team or a
smaller
function
organizations. Yeah,
or unit.
yeah,
Right, right.
right. So there's a level of cohesiveness that happens when people are, uh, aligned to a similar mindset, right? Yeah. So I don't think it's a stretch there, Ben. I think
Yeah,
it's
cool.
a
Well,
good conclusion to
it
draw.
it reminds me a little bit of some of those episodes that we had recently. We had a four-parter on adaptability,
Hmm.
and so resilience is how would you say it? Is it part of adaptability? Is it tied to? Is it a corollary of? I mean, it's kind of part and parcel.
Yeah, I think. Would you say? And I guess this would be something to maybe ask Dr. Casey DeBryan about. If
Okay, doc.
we'll have to get his feedback on this, but uh, adaptability, right? The ability to adapt and change according to some kind of stimulus, right? Positive or negative, to be able to adapt to that would lead to a level of resilience to be able to withstand um, some kind of negative affect or some
Mhm.
kind of to basically weathering the storm, right? So that makes sense that I mean this is what organisms do, right? They adapt to to
To stay alive.
survive.
Yeah,
Right.
to survive,
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
exactly. And one of my favorite words of 2025 is allostasis, which I think we've talked about on a prior show, but that's the, um, ability to have some kind of stability by making temporary
Mm.
changes, or essentially changing in reaction to perturbations or stress while still maintaining some stability.
So it's being, am I getting so allostasis would be like making sure that we still have some level of our corporate culture, vision, mission, but altering our behaviors to meet the current demand of the situation.
Yeah, I think of it also, yeah, that's very good, and I think of it also a little bit as, that sort of trial by fire type stuff where you're constantly under some level of stress or under some level of, duress, and not the good stress, but the bad stress,
Right, right.
and where that's forcing you to adapt and change, and you're always doing that, but that you're able to stay in that state and become stronger because of it. And part of that has to be there's some through line of
Mhm.
in the corporate world, there would have to be some through line of mission, vision, values, and
Yeah,
maybe some of that changes. Your company's going out of business, and you have to adjust who you're selling to, or what you're selling, or how you sell it, or you adjust the ways that you make what you make. But there's some through line through all of that.
sure, sure.
Anyways, I'm taking us
Makes a
off
lot of
track.
sense. No, no, not at all.
So
That's great, man.
So we've talked about gratitude to empathy, empathy to resilience, and the really strong evidence that we have for individual level gratitude, empathy, and resilience, and somewhat less strong but very, very plausible and, let's say, well correlated gratitude to empathy to organizational resilience. Maybe we take a break and come back and talk about how resilience leads to better organizational cultures, which I think we've talked about for the prior 86 episodes, but
Pretty
then
much,
also,
right. It's
how
worth repeating though, Ben.
always worth repeating and reminding ourselves of that, but then how that organizational resilience can lead towards improved financial performance.
Right on. Very good. We'll be right back. Dysfunctional organizational cultures and poorly managed transformations can devastate employee morale and motivation, leading to disengaged employees, poor work quality, and the loss of your best people. The impacts to your organization include high costs, low productivity, and wasted resources. At Harmonious Workplaces, our purpose is to help you build the best workplace possible. We are advisors applying proven organizational development and industrial organizational psychology methodologies to help you become your best organization. We are doers, using time-tested principles to help you execute organizational change initiatives smoothly and successfully. At Harmonious Workplaces, we believe work should provide purpose, satisfaction, and growth. We empower people to thrive by fostering environments where individuals can find meaning in their work and organizations can succeed through thoughtful, well-executed strategies. We're committed to making work better for the people who do it and the leaders who guide them. To discover how Harmonious Workplaces can impact your organization, visit www.harmoniousworkplaces.com and book a free 30-minute information session with one of our consultants today. Again, that's www.harmoniousworkplaces.com. And we're back. So Ben, before we went to the break, you were talking about how do we bring this around to financial performance, right? That's really, from a management perspective, we are here to be effective and efficient. That's
Mhm.
what management is specifically supposed to be about. And So, um, how can gratitude help to bring that around?
Yeah, so some of the research I was seeing was that there's a very strong, but it's somewhat indirect connection. And so if you have you do have research showing that there's a connection between gratitude and empathy and positive organizational cultures
Sure.
that we've talked about on many, many prior episodes. The evidence is very, very strong for that. So
Mhm.
um, that link from or that jump from gratitude to empathy to org culture, very strong. I think where there's also a very strong link that the research shows is that you have a positive organizational culture leading to resilience. So that's also very strong.
Makes
Then I
sense.
think where resilience leading to improved financial performance, that's where that link becomes a little bit less researched. And so that's another one of my fantastical leaps into the unknown, but I think that's founded on pretty plausible substrate there. So I think where I'm going with that is that if you have a positive organizational culture and if your organization is more resilient, that does lead to better financial performance because of some of the things that we've talked about on shows prior. You have
Right.
people who are much more motivated, who buy into the corporate vision, who believe the values and are aligned with the values of the organization, and who are motivated to do what they do day in and day out, who believe in the cause, if you will.
Sure.
And then that leads towards that resilience that the organization has. And then it all sort of reinforces itself with that flywheel effect. So you
Sure.
have that resilience and better organizational culture feeding each other, and that leads towards better performance, whether you're increasing your revenues or you're just being more efficient at what you do and reducing your costs.
Mhm.
I think there's pretty good evidence so far for that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I will something that comes to mind is, there was a study done by the Society of Human Resources Management, started in 2024 and was renewed again in 2025 on, civility in the workplace, right?
Okay.
So and they actually did quantify somewhere to the tune of, like, $2.1 billion
I'm sorry,
in
billion with a B?
with a B, um, potential lost opportunity costs, basically, for when there's like incivility in the organization, right? So
Oh, wow. Yeah.
stands to yeah. So we're talking about counterproductive work behaviors, CWBs. That hey, we have an acronym. Um, that cause a level of disengagement and all that, but there's also strong research that's come out in 2024 and 2023 about how the expression of gratitude, both verbal and written, can make employees feel valued. It can increase attachment and organizational commitment, right, and drive engagement and happiness in the workplace. So those those scores of incivility, right, of people having
Mhm.
bad conflict. I hate using the word bad, but counterproductive conflict, right? Um, that tends to go down when we are expressing gratitude to employees, right, from a managerial level.
Mhm.
Makes sense.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think there's, definitely a need for healthy conflict where people express
Oh
different
yeah,
ideas or share opinions, and you probably have a better finger on the pulse, but there's a ton of research that I've seen that says having a broader set of opinions and a broader set of experiences can lead towards better decision making
absolutely.
overall.
Yeah.
And so having the ability to express those in a safe way, we've talked a ton, and Cheryl is kind of our resident expert on psychological safety about how important that is and
Hmm.
how critical that is to building that sort of organizational health, if you will.
Right.
So it's for sure that, I don't think I want to imply that all stress is bad or all conflict is bad, but there has to just be a healthy way to manage that, to handle
To
that,
manage it.
to be able to hear each other for that. And part of that is gratitude. Thank you for expressing that opinion. I hadn't thought of that. Or, wow, I'm really glad you mentioned that because I didn't realize our competitor had just launched a similar product and now we shouldn't go down this path. Or,
Sure.
I'm glad you mentioned that, but ours is so much better. So thanks for confirming that we're going to knock it out of the park. I mean, whatever that is,
Yep.
that is super important.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, some of the we were just talking about decision making in my class yesterday. The two subjects were decision making and power, and like influence, right, in the workplace. And on the decision making side, we were actually just talking about that, like you if you don't have diverse perspectives, you fall into either groupthink, right, where everybody is
Hmm.
just satisficing to make it to belong, right, to
Right.
foster that sense of belonging,
Right.
um or on the other side of things, right, you have this unhealthy conflict, where you have polarization, where you have people who are strongly on this side, strongly on that side, and there's no mediation to get to where we're going to come to some kind of consensus.
Hmm.
There's no negotiation that's going to happen there.
Right.
um
Right.
and gratitude can certainly, well, actually we've seen, there's a study that was done in 2022 where they're saying that gratitude within groups at the organizational level can lead to higher work engagement, and another one saying that it will buffer against burnout and emotional exhaustion. Just leads me to believe that if you're in that situation, you're going to break down some of those barriers that are going to keep that polarization going. But like you said, you have to have that healthy tension, within the group. Otherwise, where our minds are geared towards taking the easy way out, and not making, just taking the first decision that somebody makes and rolling with it, rather than uh, thinking things through and having the status quo or that first
Hmm.
thought questioned.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I don't exactly know where I was going with there, other than I do like when, like what you put in there, like, thank you for your opinion, and let's take that into consideration, and that just fosters more people bringing up those
Right.
foils, for against groupthink, if that makes sense. I don't know if
It does.
I
Yeah.
don't know how much sense that made.
No, it's great. It's great. I'm wondering if maybe we want to just start to bring this to a nice like bow point in our
Mhm,
conversation.
mhm.
And so we've kind of talked about how a lot of research out there, empathy leads to gratitude leads to empathy.
Gratitude leads empathy. Yep.
Empathy leads to resilience.
Mhm.
Resilience leads to positive organizational cultures, healthy organizational cultures. That leads towards improved financial performance. It's a little bit reductionist, but I think the research shows that that's a a very strongly correlated and positively proven out progression. And
That makes
so,
sense. Yeah.
yeah, so check all of our show notes for all the. I mean, I'm just looking at our show notes, and there's 20, 30 odd studies that the two of us have found here. So
Yeah,
that'll
yeah,
be all in there.
so much
And
stuff here.
yeah, no, it's great. It's really great. And then where I was thinking we could go is just what are some, as we like to say, what's the one thing you can do, right? So what are some very tactical things that you can do either as a manager or as a leader or as a individual contributor to help increase that level of gratitude, which like we just said, is the substrate for everything else.
Sure. Have you seen anything in the workplace that has fostered that, Ben?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen where there's been an intentional push for leadership to model good behavior that includes gratitude for others. I've seen it where there's um, a series of trainings that people can take at any level in an organization that explain how to be more gratitudinous, how to embrace that gratitude and
Sure.
show gratitude for others throughout your team, throughout your function, all of that. So you don't just it's not just like fancy manager training, right? It's
Hmm.
anyone at the organization can take some of these training modules and they can learn how to be um, more expressive of their gratitude for others. But I think where that's reinforced is when, like anything, when you have senior leaders modeling that this is the behavior of our culture, this is the behavior of our organization, and it is important to us, and therefore people feel freer to embrace that themselves.
Sure.
Uh,
Sure.
One of the things that I was going to mention that you had called out last year in a blog that you wrote on our Harmonious Workplaces website
Hmm.
was about gratitude. And you had mentioned that there's a gratitude at work scale, which I
There
found
is. Yeah.
fascinating. So you can actually measure in some kind of quantitative way how how much gratitude there is in your organization. Is that what that's going for?
Yeah.
And then that allows you, which I know we both love, is this idea of metrics and tracking not just qualitative metrics, but
Right.
quantitative metrics and
Sure.
seeing how you are improving over time, because that would then be the proof in the pudding where you'd be able to say, we're starting here. We have
Baseline.
this
Right.
level of gratitude activity and training and positive behavior modeling in our organization. Let's amp that up, or let's give people a reminder to do these kinds of things, to express this behavior. And then you
Right.
can track either, I don't know, quarterly is probably a good metric based on some of the things you were saying before about
Mhm.
studies showing turnover stability over 6 months. So
Right.
let's say it's quarterly. Within a year, you'd have 4 really good data points to show how your organization is trending and
Yeah.
what things you're doing that are really improving that.
Well, and if we saw that, so we certainly have pulse surveys or job satisfaction,
Yeah.
engagement surveys that have been employed or deployed for various different organizations out there, right? Um, yeah, that would be a very interesting metric to have is from that standpoint of are people grateful for where they're at, and do they feel that they have sufficient gratitude expressed to them, right? So
Hmm. Hmm.
measuring that over just some regression over time can I think give you some insight into what your culture looks like.
Yeah. Yeah. Another one that I was thinking about in terms of change management, we always like to think about having change agents or change champions kind of sort of percolated throughout the business that can help promote a
Right.
change. Rich, you've talked about this as
Hmm.
our
The
group of
the guiding coalition
guiding
or the
coalition from
planning and implementation team. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
exactly, all of that. And I was thinking, would it make sense or is it plausible for an organization to have a network of gratitude champions and
Mm,
people who sort of walk the walk and not just talk the talk, but live that and breathe that? And I think about some of the places I've worked or consulted with, and there are always a handful of people who are just so good at doing that naturally that I have to believe that there are kind of these corporate cheerleaders or team cheerleaders throughout most organizations. And so just fostering them would be really nice.
for sure.
Can I give 2 more that I was thinking about? Super
Please
easy
do.
to do. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, in addition to the ones we've already talked about, expressing specific and authentic thanks. I know you were just talking about how important it is for leaders to do that, but having even from a peer, having something very specific, like, "Rich, you did a really nice job early in our podcast making this point. You just did it very eloquently." Yeah, so I butchered that, but you know where I'm going with
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Or having someone send just a little thank you note that said, "You did a really nice job on this client presentation. Thank you for being so well prepared." And it's just so specific, but people see that you're really paying attention to what they're doing and contributing day to day.
Right on.
And then one other thing that I really like, this wasn't my idea at all, but someone else had suggested this idea of creating visible spaces for gratitude and recognition. And so whether that's like a gratitude wall or some sort of other way of showing that, that can be really positive and
Yeah.
reinforces that in a very visible social way throughout the organization.
To some extent, kind of the employee of the month type of situation, or is that some is there some other, I guess there's a variety of different ways you could do that, right?
There's a variety of ways you could do it. I mean, I've seen some companies where they have quarterly all staff meetings and they'll call out a few people who did something really notable,
Right.
or you think of that sort of classic sales. They ring the bell when someone closes a big account
Yeah.
and all of that. I
Yeah.
was thinking maybe something more slightly more permanent. A lot of those recognition at a all staff or ring the bell when someone closes an account, those are really, really good and important temporal m metrics or measures of
Measures.
recognizing
Yeah.
someone. But I was
Sure.
thinking something a little bit more, slightly more permanent, where, like, you would imagine walking into a corporate office and in the lobby where they have the reception area and there's chairs and nice coffee tables and you can get a water or a coffee or whatever. They have on one wall a series of photographs of employees who have done something really special that month or that quarter.
Right.
It doesn't have to be anything like they closed a major account. It could be, somebody supported someone else who was out and someone did a really nice job with a research dossier or whatever it is.
Yeah. Yeah. I was actually that's great, man, because I was in um a potential client's office, like in their foyer, right? Foyer, whatever, however you pronounce it, right? In their waiting area, and they had a screen, right? And on the screen was that there were stories about
Oh, that's
employees and
brilliant.
what they did, and it was great because there was some video or some still photos, that said, congratulations to this team, or congratulations to this person, and that recognition, um, it shows to the people who are visiting, but it's also playing for each of the different locations because it's all on this network, right? So it's not permanent, like you were saying, but it is something that lasts probably for a month.
Right, but
So
it's permanent in a similar way where you have
yeah,
this scroll that keeps going
right,
over the course of a month, and I love that. That's brilliant.
yeah, yeah.
It's so funny that I'm thinking of, like, pictures on a wall and you're in the digital age where there's a TV scroll.
Hey, man, I'm looking around here. I've got a bunch of like static picture frames and on the
Yeah,
wall, but
yeah.
but I mean, so many people now have the digital frames in the house that have, dozens of pictures
Oh,
instead of just
yeah.
one,
Sure,
you know? Yeah.
sure.
Right
Good. Well,
on,
that's not just one thing, that's many things
many
that are
things.
very easy to do.
Right on. Awesome. Great job, Ben. I'm very
Yeah.
grateful that you came up with all of those. Thank you so much.
I am grateful to you for hosting us every week.
Well, co-hosting, man. It's the
Well,
two of us.
okay, for
So
pushing the shiny red button and making it all go.
there you go. That's the extent of my skill on this. So cool.
Yeah,
All right. Well,
yeah.
happy Thanksgiving, everybody. And
Likewise.
until we meet again, make change your friend. Thanks for listening to Harmonious Workplaces. You can find Harmonious Workplaces on LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, Spotify, Amazon, Apple, and other streaming platforms. We'd love any feedback on whatever channel you find us on. Please rate, like, and share our podcast with your network, and remember to add Harmonious Workplaces to your list of favorites to get notified about each new episode.